So I'm going to talk about desire. Astrologically, we have Pluto on the south node, Pluto moving with Saturn. Pluto's very active right now and will be so for the next year. Whenever we speak about Pluto, we're looking at desire. And I want to say that desire is something we can't control. If it arises, it's there. You don't get to really choose what you desire. It's more a matter of fact that if there's desire, it's here. And the question is, how do you want to be in relationship to it? And the relationship that we have with desire actually shapes and moves us down the path. And we can get stuck in certain desires, either by perpetually embellishing it or perpetually avoiding it, or we can integrate it and thus move on from it. Desire and longing and the call for fulfillment, the call for experience through that which is outside is a part of the program. It's a part of what it's like to be coming into this incarnational experience. And my view is that a big part of the evolutionary journey is playing it out, and playing it out consciously. And sometimes playing it out consciously means consciously allowing ourselves to not be conscious, to go into the dark places that we cannot control, the psychological needs and compulsions that we do not understand. All of desire, which really ultimately speaks to the two sides of craving and aversion, those are the two expressions of desire, always points to where inside each of us there is a soul journey to walk, an important, a precious, a powerful soul journey. The manifestation of desire does not mean we are to blindly obsess or give ourselves to whatever object of desire that occupies our consciousness, nor is it a sign that there's something scary or dangerous out there that we need to protect ourselves from and not get lost in the samsara, in the potential for endless suffering. Simply the manifestation of desire says there is something here. Everything, everyone, every experience, every role, every opportunity, every possible manifestation of relationship with the 10,000 things of creation point to a place within each of us where there's more of our eternal soul self to realize. Desire is not a bad thing. It is not a thing to strategize and figure out. But it absolutely 100% points to where there is a deeper integration wanting to happen. And how do we foster that integration? How do we find that what we want on the outside is actually on the inside? By yielding ourselves to the desire, accommodating to it, honoring it, respecting it. When we give ourselves to our condition, when we open ourselves and turn our attention with respect and curiosity and devotion and care, free of judgment, free of existing preference, predefined, pre-decided idea about what you should be. One of the issues with Capricorn is where we get stuck upon conditioned judgments and ideas of right and wrong. And then relative to the soul journey, desires and needs and yearnings can be arising. And if we don't have a relationship of acceptance and permission to what's inside of us, then we'll meet these natural impulses that really speak to a blossoming soul journey of growth, with repression, with shutdown. And so much of the violence and the confusion and the distortion that happens in this world isn't because of desire, it's because of the way that we are in relationship to it. I listened to this beautiful talk, and I'll have to put the credits for the talk in the description because I'm not remembering the name of this person. But they said something so beautiful, that so often when it comes to sexuality, there are these very, very strong polarizations of total carnal, heartless relationship stripped of intimacy. It's like where the thing becomes the thing that you want to get to fulfill the thing. A very literal, direct, it possessing, getting it. Right? There's so often that on the one hand, and like the deep longing for more, for intimacy, for being met, to share in something deep and more fulfilling. And this can also be, finding the lover, finding the beloved, finding your husband, your wife, your partner. Now it's possess, right? You are possessed, you are possessing, you've got it. Right? Whenever we got something, whenever we've arrived somewhere, whenever we have that person, have that relationship, we're no longer growing. It's a projected state of stasis that is contrary to the nature of creation. It's contrary to the nature of evolution. The psychology of possessiveness is a gesture of control, of grounding ourselves into a false belief, a false security that we can actually have something, and thus we're no longer in relationship to the cutting edge evolutionary growth as spoken to by our desires. When we have, then suddenly we're going to need to control what we have, because that which we have fulfills something that we are lacking on the inside. So there's no relationship to our own inner reality here. And yet, on the other hand, we can say, I'm going to stay in the longing, stay in that place perpetually, but abstain from the messiness and from the dirtiness. I'll be the monk archetype and keep myself free of the samsara and the confusions of this world. Let's fix the lighting here a little bit. There you go. There may not be any relationship to desire here as well, in that extreme. We know that we can achieve higher states of consciousness, transcendent levels of consciousness, and yet still be very unintegrated in our own being. We know this. There are so many examples, and thankfully it's coming up more and more today, of spiritual teachers who have great followings, have a lot of cities, have a lot of powers, but are deeply unintegrated in really having a relationship to core unresolved needs and desires. We've often judged it as, well, you shouldn't have these desires in the first place. And you so often look at desire as either you're going to get stuck in it and lost in it, and it's going to be this endless process of suffering. You're going to lose, you're going to have to control, things going to come to you, you're going to like it, then you're going to be afraid of losing it, you're going to lose it, you're going to feel sad and jaded, you're going to try to hold on, you'll never open up again, right? Or like, forget it, I'm not going to open up, I'm not going to trust, I'm not going to love, I'm not going to be vulnerable. The caterpillar has to walk its journey. It has to follow the path that is relevant to where it's at. And when the time comes, caterpillar will fall away. It'll create the space for its own death. It'll cease to become. Every desire, when we embrace it, when we honor, there's a path here. It's going to say there is a world to live in. There is an invitation to shape our identity, shape our sense of self, to make more space, more room, to become more expansive, become a little wider, to accommodate to that which is wanting to be integrated. So that might mean, okay, I'm going to be vulnerable here. I'm going to share something I've never shared before. I'm going to ask for something. I'm going to go for this job. I'm going to take this course. I'm going to study this teacher. I'm going to watch this video from this person that is really embodied in this particular way that I'm really called to explore within myself. We allow ourselves Imagine someone that's drawn towards sex, deep, passionate, intimate sexual connection. If that is judged and shamed, if those desires aren't given the space to integrate, they will never have the opportunity. They will never allow themselves to learn what it's like to be a fully integrated sexual being. And thus we have what we call the shadow. Shadow is simply when we do not integrate and meet and own our own desires. So this can be a soul with a very unintegrated shadow, a sexual shadow, which will then be this deep need, a deep wanting that's not being met, that's not being cared for, not being fed. And that can leak and do all kinds of damaging things for themselves and for other people. So much of the violence in the world does also come from the result of not honoring the shadow, not honoring desire and the creation of the shadow that's unintegrated, that's unseen. But if the shadow is met, if, oh, okay, here are places that I'm unresolved, where I'm wanting something, there's a psychological piece here that I can't quite see, we start to look at it. It takes us down a path to become conscious of what is unseen, to integrate what we can't yet understand about ourselves. And that will transform us. It'll make us someone completely different. Imagine, to take a different example, a person that has a deep need to be adored, deep need to be loved, to be seen, to be wanted. Maybe as a child they weren't given a lot of attention, they weren't seen, they weren't cared for, they were ignored. Maybe they haven't really met this power in them, right? This voice inside that says, I am special and I want everyone to know it, because that would be wrong. That wouldn't be appropriate, or they're not deserving of that, or it's unsafe to do that. So they might get into relationship after relationship of not being honored, not being respected, perhaps the negative inverse of their unintegrated desire, relationship with people that are extreme in their sense of self-value in a narcissistic way. So they can live their life not really being met in a deep way. But if they begin to realize, you know what, I have this desire to be seen, and the more that I don't integrate, the more conflict and drama and confusion and pain it causes me. So let me explore that. Right? So they might start walking a path of looking more into, what does it feel like? What does it look like to be confident in who I am? What does it look like to connect with my own divine royalty and sovereignty? Right? Lady Gaga is a great example of someone who early in life, she knew that she was going to be famous. And so she vibrationally came into resonance with the energy of fame and importance. She would walk down the street dressed up really well, acting and holding herself as if she was a celebrity, well before she was famous. Self-image, self-identity, our sense of self, will mold and shape according to whatever desire we are integrating. And when we integrate it, our sense of self completely shifts to include fully that which we've integrated. And we play it out. We receive the nourishment of it. We allow it to inform us, to grow us, until it's time to move on. Because that's what evolution is. That's what Pluto is. That's what this whole journey of growth. Nothing lasts forever. And this path, what's programmed into our existence, is this ongoing journey of integrating desire, meeting more of ourself, integrating it into who we are, living it, letting go, and moving on. And if we hold on at any point, if that person is now famous, the one who had a desire to be adored, now they're getting a lot of adoration, that can become its own ego trap, where that self-image that was formed now becomes a destination. It becomes a possessed state. I need everyone now to always treat me this way. This is why in our journey of life, of incarnation from life to life, we have so many lifetimes, I find, that are in ways such polarities one to the other. Where we hold on to any identification, we're bound to create the total contrast to that. So that consciousness can become aware of itself as not this, not that. Free itself from the bounds of opposites and stay in motion. Keep on going. We also often in this society fail to honor and appreciate and respect the deeply yin qualities of desire. That when we are meeting and forming a relationship to what's inside of us, our wantings, our yearnings, our desires, it's a very internal experience. We might be taken by strong emotion, jealousy, betrayal, deep hurt. It can be a very emotionally volatile thing, tempting for a lot of people to shut off completely or to engage with it, to become bound and engaged by the ephemeral comings and goings, holding on, controlling, possessing, taking revenge, trying to make things work according to what's happening on the inside. But to retreat from the world and to really form an intimate relationship to, what is this? What's here for me? Not what do I need to solve? How do I get rid of it? How do I move on? But what is this showing me about me? What wants to be integrated and seen? And we can't see it yet. We have to learn about ourselves. When we learn about ourselves in these ways, we're really walking the path of our soul. Within each of us, that which we desire, that which we crave, when we meet it with respect, anything that we desire with gratitude, with honor, with care, not with a place of lack, nor a place of resistance. But when we accommodate and open our hearts to include and meet the longings inside of us, then we become one with the evolutionary trajectory of our soul, of why we came here. Because it's very directly a meeting and a landing into the truth of this lifetime. It takes us into the most relevant, cutting edge, present moment truth of what's really emerging on our path. This right here, okay, I'm grateful to look at this, to see this. That might take you into a chrysalis, and you might become a butterfly. Or it might mean you need to eat some more leaves for a while and really play out the caterpillar. I feel in the paradigm that we're moving into as a society, we get to look at all things Pluto, all things desire, which really takes us into the most taboo, often confusing, often dangerous, often the places where there are the most entanglements, our attachments, our sexuality, the places of addiction, the places where we can get stuck, and really also where we can just decide to close up and protect ourselves. We're learning as a culture, as a world, really as a humanity, gradually in the changing of these eras, of this era, to regard our full humanity as the crucible for our spirituality. That our embodiment in our desires is the holy marriage of spirit and flesh. And it will no longer be a so common and so unfortunate manifestation of the distortion within so many spiritual teachers in their relationship to the flesh, to find these scandals and this misuse of power, misuse of sexuality. Because the new version of evolution, the new version of awakening is full embodiment. my dear friend and teacher Jennifer Dunn has often shared with me, embodiment is the new ascension.